Now, I promised you some good news out of Arkansas, and very seldom does good news come out of Arkansas, especially now that the Christian jerkwad is the governor. You know who I'm talking about. I just hate to say her name. But anyway, all right. No, I'm not going to say her name. To hell with it. Anyway, here's the story. A federal judge has permanently blocked this country's first law banning gender-affirming care for minors, which, no matter how you look at it, is a victory for LGBTQ advocates. Permanently banning. You know, this is the thing that drives me crazy. What possesses, other than Christian insanity, a legislature in any state to say, well, there's certain cures, you might say, or cares, or treatments for people who are struggling with their gender identity, and there's ways to help them out of that morass and into their real consciousness. So let's pass a law that tells them they can't have it. What causes that? Well, very simply, religious bullshit. That's the only thing that causes that kind of legislation to be passed. But anyway, the ruling was last Tuesday. No, I take it. Hold on a second. Last Tuesday. By a district judge, James Moody Jr. And in his ruling, he said the state of Arkansas violated several sections of the U.S. Constitution. Oh, boy. The Christian terrorists in these state legislatures are getting good at this, aren't they? Now, instead of violating maybe one constitutional affirmation or guarantee, they go after 4 or 5, right? Well, the district judge said that several sections of the U.S. Constitution were violated when the state of Arkansas banned all gender-affirming treatments for people under 18. And it was an 80-page ruling by this district court judge. And it says, in part, depriving trans minors of treatment like hormone therapy would cause them irreparable harm, and that delaying care until adulthood would force teens to go through changes inconsistent with their gender identity. Now, what does that mean to Christian fascists? It means we're acting like a goddamn queer, and that's not allowed in the Bible. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. That's exactly what they're talking about. This is religious fascism, and the religion involved happens to be Christianity. Oh, boy. Now, this verdict that was issued last Tuesday, that comes after an 8-day trial back in December. And in that trial, several of the state's witnesses admitted, the witnesses were for the state of saying, we want to stop people from medical care. But they admitted they didn't have any experience treating transgender teens, and they offered no evidence to dispute decades of scientific research that affirms gender-affirming care. But as we know, Christian demons do not give a rat's ass about science, logic, truth, decency, justice. The only thing they care about is their religious dogma. Which prompts me to go back to what Robert Lombardi sent me today, his quote from Thomas Paine, to argue with a man who has renounced the use and authority of reason and whose philosophy consists in holding humanity in contempt is like administering medicine to the dead. Isn't that what these legislatures do? They renounce the use of authority and reason, and their philosophy consists in holding humanity in contempt. Young people who are struggling with what is going on inside their consciousness, an area where these Christian fascists want to destroy as quickly as possible, just as Orwell predicted in his novel 1984. destroy the ability to be true to yourself. Be true only to Big Brother. And in this case, Big Brother being this crazed religious perversion that they've come up with. But I digress. The verdict from the judge, the ruling from the judge, reads in part this too. Quote, rather than protecting children or safeguarding medical ethics, the evidence showed that the prohibited medical care improves the mental health and well-being of patients, and that by prohibiting it, the state of Arkansas undermined the interest it claims to be advancing. The testimony of well-credentialed experts, doctors who provide gender-affirming medical care in Arkansas, and families that rely on that care directly refutes any claim by the state of Arkansas that the act advances an interest in protecting children, end quote. The act being this bullshit rule that these Christian demons passed in the Arkansas legislature. Well, I mean, when the judge has to make a statement that the testimony of well-credentialed experts, doctors who provide gender-affirming medical care, and families that rely on that care, when that taken together directly destroys any claim that the state of Arkansas makes, that, oh, we're just protecting children, that's all. No, you're not, you son of a bitches, not just in Arkansas, but in any state. You are destroying children. You are taking away their consciousness, their soul, actually, and trying to replace it with this religious bullshit that tells them they are not who they know they are. I mean, what? If that doesn't constitute religious torture, that's like the Inquisition, where you say to somebody, if you are not going to be what we tell you to be, a good little Christian terrorist like we are, then we will goddamn destroy your ability to function as an individual. Isn't that what was said in the Inquisition? Yes, Mike, it is. Now, this case was brought by the ACLU on behalf of families of transgender teens and two physicians who know a hell of a lot more about this subject, light years more than these dork assholes in the Arkansas legislature, these so-called Christians who said, I know, let's fuck over the transgender teens in our state. Let's really screw them up. And Judge Moody, who issued this ruling, previously blocked the law days before it was set to take effect back in 2021. So it finally went to trial, 8-day trial, and a decision was reached. And the judge issued the decision last Tuesday. Now, how soon do you think it will be before this judge continues, if it hasn't started already, to get death threats? His family will be threatened. His life will be threatened. His property will be threatened. He'll be cursed, condemned to hell. And what did Judge Moody do? He pissed off the Christian terrorists. Any threat that comes to Judge Moody for this ruling will come only from Christian demons. Only from them. Now, Arkansas became the first state in the nation to ban gender-affirming care for trans minors. And that's when lawmakers passed this bullshit Christian Terror Act in 2021. And immediately, Alabama, Florida, and Indiana put similar laws on the books, all of which are temporarily on hold. With this ruling by a district court judge, now maybe these laws in these other states that I just mentioned, and any other states that have done this kind of Christian terrorism against people, maybe their laws will be shit-canned too. They never should have been written to begin with. You know, I don't want to keep saying it, but I'll say it anyway. Do you understand? I'm sure you do, how violent and anti-life this contemporary version of so-called Christianity has become? I mean, who are they going to attack next? Women, gay folk, transgender folks, students? Who are they going after next? They're not going to stop. Watch what happens next. Same-sex marriage. That's already in the sights of these Christian demons. Same-sex marriage. A transgender teen and one of the plaintiffs in the case said this. His name's Dylan Brandt. This is what he said. I'm so grateful the judge heard my experience of how this healthcare has changed my life for the better, and that the judge saw the dangerous impact this law can have on my life and that of countless other transgender youth. End quote. End quote. Now, I said this is what he said. I don't know if he is male or if this person is male or female. The name is Dylan Brandt. But that's what the teenager said. And in a statement posted to Twitter last week, the Arkansas Attorney General, who also is a Christian demon named Tim Griffin, this is what he wrote, quote, Judge Moody misses what is widely known. There is no scientific evidence that any child will benefit from these procedures. While the consequences are harmful and often permanent, we will appeal to the Eighth Circuit. End quote. And this rat bastard shows the ignorance that Thomas Paine mentioned in the quote that Robert Lombardi sent me today in his sponsorship. It's the exact issue about which Paine was talking. And according to the ruling, Judge Moody's ruling, this Christian Demon Act violated 3 parts of the Constitution. The First Amendment, the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, which the Supreme Court seems to want to violate every goddamn day, and the Due Process Clauses of the 5th and 14th Amendments. And the ACLU had argued that the law put together by these Arkansas Christian demons limited the free speech of doctors by prohibiting the doctors from referring patients to other physicians who would provide the gender-affirming care. But see, the Christian terror, they don't give a shit about this. This is what they scream and belch and fart and wheeze about in front of the Supreme Court. Oh, you're going to make that woman make a website for queers? Oh, no, you're interfering with her free speech. And then, like I mentioned to our subscribers, it turned out that the guy who is referred to as Stewart in that case never asked for a gay website to begin with. But that's a different story. If you're a subscriber, you heard what I said on the weekend. Judge Moody agreed with what the ACLU said. And he said that restricting speech related only to gender transition procedures was a First Amendment violation. Of course. And the ruling by Judge Moody also finds, according to what I have here, that the law violates the due process rights of citizens of Arkansas by taking away parents' ability to make decisions regarding their child's health care. Of course, but you see, this is how the Christians absolutely, just like Moms for Liberty, they absolutely corrupt, destroy, trash language. Moms for Liberty, my ass. And saying that this law in Arkansas protected child's health care. No, it did not. It destroyed a child's health care. And the ruling also adds that the law discriminates against minors based on their sex, since it would not prohibit minors from accessing gender-affirming care if it aligns with their sex assigned at birth. But you see, this is what Thomas Paine was saying. You can't argue with these son of a bitches because they are devoid of reason, logic, common sense. And I might add, also devoid of decency or love for their fellow humans or any respect for what Jesus Christ, who they claim to be their Messiah, told them. They don't give a shit. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.